I get it. Den of Thieves is just a ripoff of Heat. I've heard that, but there's something about these movies, same thing with Joker, like a ripoff of Taxi Driver. If they do it well, you know? What's up, Flick fans? If it wasn't obvious, I actually really enjoyed the first Den of Thieves. I just rewatched it. I think I liked it even more, so I was super pumped for Den of Thieves Pantera. That's not right.
It's not about the money.
Big Nick is back on the hunt in Europe and closing in on Donnie, who's embroiled in the treacherous world of diamond thieves and the infamous Panther mafia, as they plot a massive heist of the world's largest diamond exchange, once again rated R. There's pervasive language, some violence, drug use, sexual references, and we are years removed from the first Den of Thieves, which I think was 2018 without looking off the bat. But again, it's a film that I responded to. I actually didn't watch it when it first came out, so maybe I was just so far removed from the initial backlash that it didn't bother me as much, man. I had a really good time, but the first Den of Thieves, it's an action movie through and through with, some heist elements in there, absolutely, but it focuses much more on the action. It keeps up that relentless intensity as we move further and further through the plot, and inevitably, even though you can make your Heat comparisons, absolutely, and Heat is one of the greatest movies of all time. It's in my top 100. We'll do that list at some point, but this movie, the first one, was really good. So I didn't know how to feel about the sequel, because it's like, it's years later. Was it worth even making one? Are they going to do the thing where they always make a sequel just to make money? Because Gerard Butler, say what you will about the guy, he makes money. He's in these action movies that often do very well, and I think he's very good in Pantera. Also a little more grounded, right? In the first film, there were some cop cliches, even though we didn't really know what side he was on, although ultimately there was kind of consensus as to where his heart was. In this movie, we are even more ambiguous with his character. He and O'Shea Jackson Jr., their chemistry is genuinely great. Now, I will say about Jackson Jr., his performance is not as good as Gerard Butler's here. That's very obvious from the get-go. It's not that he can't keep up, but it's just that Gerard Butler, he's always firing on so many cylinders. It's hard for really anybody to keep up when he's in an action movie that just feels like the world that he needs to live in. But like I said, the second film, it's much more of a heist movie. But it's a heist movie with a lot of buildup in the first half. And oftentimes, I look at that, I give it kudos, I'm saying, okay, I appreciate a script that focuses more on these character moments. I really respect trying to give them their due, and they're sitting down having some nice conversations. There's a scene where they're sitting and talking about why they did this to start with, why Donnie didn't take the money after the first one, and it's these types of character moments that you rarely get in a sequel like this, and to be honest, I thought the script had some really nice character interactions. Now, again, you're replacing the action from the first movie with some character interactions, with slowing things down, trying to get in the mindset of why they're both doing what they're doing. It's also dealing with the fallout of the first film, while their actions, Big Nick specifically, had consequences, and those consequences are showcasing themselves here. But then we're expanding out of LA. We're going into like international territory in this movie. So it's bigger. I'm not going to say the action's bigger. I'm not going to say the intensity, the edge of your seat madness is bigger or better. My fear with Pantera was that it was going to get a little too ridiculous. With some of the more recent Fast and Furious films, you've got a heist element. I don't want it to be over the top. It's not that. It's actually the opposite. I would say this is much more grounded than the first, and maybe that's less action. You don't have to suspend disbelief as much, but at the same time, man, and just to get to the point, because I've been rambling, I really did miss the action in this movie. I missed what made the first one so much fun. And say what you will about these character moments, which I do respect and appreciate through the first half here, but there are times when they're talking and they're going to a bar and they're hanging out with people and the plot's just meandering throughout the first 45 minutes. And this movie's 2 hours and 30 minutes long. Like, it doesn't need to be this long, first of all. I think even longer than the first. And second of all, I felt like we could have shaved 45 minutes off of this runtime, had somewhat of the same movie, maybe less character moments, but I wouldn't have been as bored like I was in the first half. There is a fine line you're walking when you're trying to do a movie like this, where you're kind of taking away what the first one did so well, but you're providing more intimate moments between characters. But at a point, you just have to do something to keep me invested. You have to do something to make me want to feel more interested. And because I'm missing so many elements of what I got in the first and how it was just keeping me on the edge of my seat throughout most of the movie, I'd say 3/4 of this film, I'm just kind of sitting in, there's some moments, but I wasn't really invested. He's assembling a crew to infiltrate the World Diamond Center. And funny enough, this is something that actually happened years ago. This isn't a true story of that, but I think the director said he took that idea and wanted to apply it to this. But I feel like you're losing a little bit of your luster when you're taking a sequel like this in a different direction. You're shifting genres along those lines, keeping those same characters intact, but also not providing the supporting characters that the first one did. Again, we have our same two here, but a lot of like the crew and the people involved and certain things don't carry over into this one. I'd say as a whole, a lot of what made the first one great for me didn't really carry over. It's a very strategic movie. There's a lot of planning and waiting and heist-isms in there building up to the heist, and plenty of conveniences too. And that's one thing, this film is, I'd say, more grounded than the first, but in terms of those heist conveniences that you often see in a movie handling subject matter like this, you get those and you get those in spades. And there were times where I was sitting back going, okay, now we're getting entertaining, but also, how did you not see those people?
You what?
I think they expand upon Big Nick's character well. There is that conundrum of, okay, is he going to remain a cop, or is he actually going to say what he's doing and going to help them? There is that morality aspect to him specifically that he does, again, a bang-up job of, and at the end of the day, I love his character. Even in a sequel that I didn't like nearly as much as the first, I think he is like the shining beacon of this. And if they wanted to do another one and stick it back in the action genre, I would be happy. But I don't think this sequel did it for me. And so that's my question. Did Pantera do it for you? Do you like the genre shift, making this more of a heist movie? Or was that kind of jarring? Did you miss the elements of the first? I still think the filmmaking is present in this film. I love shooting on location. I liked certain elements, but at the end of the day, the story just moved way too slow for me, and it was missing that energy of the first. So leave your thoughts down below, and of course, if you like this review and you want more like it, drop that thumbs up. Pantera struggles mightily with its pacing through the first half, and the energy from the first just doesn't carry over. The focus is much less on the action, more on the heist aspect, but there are some solid character moments during the build-up. Butler thrives, and there are some fun sequences, but this is far less riveting than its predecessor. Not a bad film. Not necessarily one that I like, but not bad. So we're staying mostly okay in January. This January doesn't feel like other January, so that's pretty solid. So I have yet to see a bad movie in 2025. Den of Thieves 2 just didn't really do it for me. All right, I'll see you soon.